How old are you right now? Go on, really think about it for a second, because I'm willing to bet you still feel pretty solid. Maybe you watch what goes on your plate. Maybe you still lace up those sneakers and get yourself moving a few days a week. And somewhere in the back of your mind, you have quietly decided that the version of old you saw in your grandparents, that slow, fragile, fading version, that is just not going to be you. You have told yourself that story for years now, and honestly, I do not blame you one bit. But I need you to stay right here with me, because what I'm about to share with you is not something I read off a poster. This is the kind of thing that nobody really wants to talk about out loud. And if you're anywhere near your 60s right now, this might be the most important thing you hear all year. There's a window of time that researchers and gerontologists, people who study the science of aging, have started calling the most dangerous stretch of later life. And it doesn't start the day you hand in your resignation. It doesn't start the moment you retire and think, okay, now I can finally breathe. It comes later. It sneaks up. Somewhere between the ages of 70 and 75, something shifts. And for a lot of people, it shifts fast. In just those 5 years, things that used to feel automatic start to feel uncertain. Strength that you spent decades building starts to quietly walk out the door. The peace you thought retirement would bring starts to feel more like silence than rest. And the connections you counted on, the people, the routines, the sense that you matter somewhere to someone, those start to thin out in ways that nobody warned you about. And here's the part that really gets me. The people who often fall the hardest during this stretch are not the ones who spent their lives careless. They're the careful ones, the disciplined ones, the ones who always had a plan. And that right there should make every single one of us stop and pay attention. So why does someone who looks absolutely fine, who is still walking and laughing and showing up, why do they sometimes age 10 years in what feels like 18 months after turning 70? There's a pattern underneath all of it, a pattern I call the cliff at 75. And today I want to walk you through it slowly and honestly. If you stay with me to the end of this, I promise you you're going to walk away understanding 5 real things that are coming, and more importantly, 5 real things you can actually do about them. This is not about scaring you. This is about handing you a map before you reach that part of the road. The first one is something doctors call accelerated frailty. Now, frailty is one of those words that sounds simple but carries a lot of weight. It's that space between being well and needing someone else to do things for you. And after 70, muscle loss, which is called sarcopenia, starts happening faster than most people realize is even possible. Let me tell you about a man I'll call Richard. Spent his whole career as a top sales executive. Even after retirement, he was that guy doing 10,000 steps every single day. He was proud of it. He used to say he was built different from other men his age. Then, one morning at 73, he reached for a jar of jam on the kitchen shelf. His hand wouldn't grip it right. There was a sharp sting through his wrist, and he had to turn to his wife and say, "Can you open this for me?" He said later that moment hit him somewhere much deeper than his wrist, because what happened was not just about grip strength. What happened was the beginning of what psychologists call self-efficacy collapse, which is when your belief in your own ability to handle your life starts to quietly erode. And once that starts, people hesitate. They go out less, their legs get weaker from not being used, and the risk of falling goes up. It becomes a cycle that feeds itself. The fix is not an expensive supplement. It's embarrassingly simple. Sit down in a chair right now, put a small towel on the floor in front of you, and use your toes to drag it toward you. That's it. 30 seconds. That tiny movement starts rebuilding your foot grip, your balance, your confidence in your own body. It sounds almost too small to matter, but that feeling of pressing your feet firmly into the ground and knowing your body still listens to you, that's the first thing you need before you ever reach that cliff. The second thing is what I can only describe as social death. And I know that sounds rough, but I need you to sit with it. For so many men especially, the moment full retirement happens after 70, something invisible gets taken away. You spent decades being somebody, a manager, a leader, a person people came to. Your name meant something in a room. And then one morning you wake up and there's nowhere you have to be. No calls or emails, no one waiting on your answer. That loss of role, what researchers call role discontinuity, doesn't just sting your pride, it actually changes your brain chemistry. Harvard Medical School researchers have compared the physical damage of chronic loneliness to smoking 15 cigarettes a day. 15! Let that settle for a moment. People try crossword puzzles and brain hacks to stay sharp, and look, those are not bad, but real conversation with a living, breathing human being activates part of your brain that no screen game can touch. Even something as small as saying, "nice jacket," to someone at the grocery store lights up multiple regions of your brain all at once. Laughing with someone for 5 minutes does more for your cognitive health than an hour of solo brain exercises. That's not an opinion, that's neuroscience. The survival move here is finding somewhere you belong, not because of your title or your resume, but just because you showed up. A volunteer group in a small Ohio town, a hobby club in California, somewhere you're a human being contributing something, anything to the people around you. The third thing is the quiet disappearance of the people you love. Once you're in your 70s, goodbyes start showing up more often than any of us are ready for. A friend you golfed with in Florida ends up in the hospital. Someone you met for coffee every week passes away without warning. The casual "see you next week" becomes something you realized was actually a final goodbye, and you didn't know it at the time.
This is one of the main reasons why this stage of life carries such a heavy emotional weight, what psychologists call bereavement overload. Losing multiple people in a short span can push someone into isolation in ways that feel completely invisible from the outside. But the answer is not trying to replace deep old friendships with brand new ones. That is exhausting, and it usually is not work. What actually helps are lighter, wider, more relaxed connections, nodding to the cashier at your regular market, becoming a familiar face in a neighborhood coffee shop in Seattle, or a morning walk group in a Texas park. Having 3 or 4 of these loose little communities gives you something research calls ambient belonging, a quiet sense that someone notices you, that you fit somewhere. That feeling works on your nervous system like a slow medicine. It takes the edge off the anxiety that so many people carry silently in their 70s. The fourth thing is the weight of being a caregiver. This one nobody really wants to talk about, but somewhere between 70 and 75, a lot of people are not just managing their own health, they are also caring for a partner. And so many devoted, loving spouses decide that asking for outside help is somehow a failure of that love. I'm going to say this plainly. That belief, no matter how beautiful it sounds, can break both of you. There is a man I think of sometimes, call him Daniel, who slipped on cold bathroom tiles during a Chicago winter while trying to care for his wife alone. His back gave out, and suddenly the person he was trying to protect had no one. Right now, pull out your phone and save this phrase: Area Agency on Aging. These offices exist all over the United States. You do not have to be in crisis to reach out. You can just say, "I've been feeling a little stretched lately." That's enough to start. Using professional support is not betraying your family. It is one of the wisest things you can do for the person you love most. The fifth thing is digital isolation. Almost everything in modern life, government services, emergency alerts, the ability to stay in touch with your kids, runs through a smartphone now. And I hear people say all the time that they do not need all that, and their old phone is just fine. But that distance from technology is quietly cutting people off from the flow of everyday life in ways they don't always see coming. You do not need to master everything. You only need two things: sending a photo through a messaging app and using your voice to type instead of your fingers. That's it. You can say out loud, "The weather is so pretty today. I went for a little walk," and send a picture of a flower from the sidewalk to your daughter. That one tiny act pulls you back into connection. A smartphone is not a gadget. For a lot of people in their 70s, it's a lifeline. So here's where I want to leave you. 3 things you can start today. Move your toes for 30 seconds every morning. Practice saying out loud, "I could use a little help with this," to at least one person this week. And go somewhere new at least once a week, even if it's just a different park or a coffee shop you've never tried. New places do something quiet and powerful to the brain. They remind it that life is still moving, and so are you. The years between 70 and 75 are real. They're heavy for a lot of people, but they do not have to take you down. The people who come out the other side and say those were actually some of the best years of my life, they all learned one thing. They learned how to lean on others without feeling ashamed of it. They learned that needing people is not weakness, it's just being human. You are not alone in this, not even close. If any piece of this felt like it was talking directly to you, drop a comment below. Tell me how old you are and where you're watching from. And if someone in your life needs to hear this, please share it with them today.